So Dave, what is all this vehicle combatives training I hear about?
Let me show you. Any questions?
Hey guys, my name is Dave Tim, and we just got done hosting Dave Spaulding from Handgun Combatives for his vehicle combatives class. And it was an awesome class. If you guys haven't taken a vehicle combatives class before, it is a great time. Dave, thank you very much for coming back. We really enjoyed it. We had a great time. We wrapped it up. And I think a lot of people really enjoyed the training, primarily because, you know, people have trained with simulated vehicles and around, you know, cardboard objects to simulate vehicles or maybe even barricades, but actually getting some cars out here really kind of changes the whole training experience and the you know, the lessons learned, because you're actually getting in and out of real seat belts and crawling over crappy seats and limiting with all this stuff. And I really enjoyed it. So I wanted to say first, thank you very much for coming again.
Well, thanks for having me.
It's awesome. And then number two, it was an awesome course. I can tell you put up a lot of time into it and have a lot of experience that you're drawing from. So it's just a really, really positive training experience. And if you guys haven't trained with Dave, please do so. I know your time is numbered before you talk about retirement. We've talked about it before, but check out his webpage, handguncombatives.com. We'll put a link in the description below. You'd like him on Facebook, YouTube, you know, Instagram. He's all on the social media stuff, but please check him out. He does a really, really great job. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of the after action review. Dave, how did the vehicle combatives course come to be?
Well, actually, it was a course that I designed for law enforcement narcotics officers. As you well know, for about 5 years I was the commander of a multi-jurisdictional drug task force. I had federal agents, state agents, I had local investigators, and we targeted medium to high level dealers, trying to take the top of these people off. Oftentimes, especially during the crack phenomenon of the late 90s, we ended up doing crack raids and things like this. But part of that whole world, that whole enforcement arena, was a lot of activity in and around cars, and there really wasn't a training course for that. So I basically created a training course for narcotics officers to actually shoot and fight in cars, around cars, getting out of cars. And then when I opened the training company, basically what I did is I kind of citizenized it. So I made it a course in for the armed citizen who may be the victim of a carjack, or they're assaulted around their vehicle in their driveway or in a parking garage or in a mall parking lot, so that they knew what to do. The first caveat, however, is if your vehicle is mobile, hit the gas and drive away. You don't want to get out of the car and fight, because as you saw during the class, it's somewhat complex.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed how the class started out. It started out with a classroom. We had a nice review session where we looked at some real life videos, we looked at some officer involved shooting videos, we looked at some street crime, and you could actually see how these vehicle you know, issues are coming up in real world, you know, actual real scenarios, and we would talk about it. What would, you know, you think you would do in that situation, or what could they have done?
Right.
And you kind of realize that the best option often is that escape or evade. And you know, like you talked about too, there's, you know, no shame in doing that to regroup and be the first one to come back with backup. Why set yourself up for failure? Why go into a situation that, you know, just to lose? So I really enjoyed the classroom. It kind of explained a lot of the background building up. And then once we hit the range on day one, I always like it. Your 3-round fade back, it's something that I know is a staple of yours, but I think it's just a great marksmanship drill to get, you know, things going and see how you're shooting. So I enjoyed that. The arc of ready, holster review, and at first someone might quickly dismiss, you know, why is that, but I think it totally becomes relevant once we get into the main meat and potatoes of it. So I really liked how you reviewed that.
Well, what the viewers may not realize is that Handgun Combatives, I don't have like level 1, level 2 or things like that. Each one of my courses is a skill set. In this particular case, it's fighting in and around cars. My advanced class is movement, which we did. We've done critical space, which is close quarter shooting and shooting in and around non-hostiles. So each one of these courses is a set of skills that you will need in order to win, to prevail in armed conflict. each one of the classes, I always review those essential skills that will be necessary to successfully complete the course. In this particular case, we did the arc of ready, but we did a lot of emphasis on the high ready because you're coming up and over top of a steering wheel, or you're coming up and over top of an engine block. And of course, we reviewed the draw because you need to be able to draw the gun up, turn it, and go over top the steering wheel or the dashboard. So we had to go over those essential skills, and it makes it a lot easier to accomplish the rest of the class if folks are tuned up on the skills they need.
Yeah. Now, speaking of folks in the class, we had 18 total students, including staff and other students, and I think we had a really great group of shooters. I mean, we went through some things that you said were a little ahead of pace on day one. You know, as far as equipment, if you're into that, I'm not as much, but we had good quality, either concealment or duty rigs. Everybody except for one was shooting a Glock.
Right.
And you know, I know Glock is the majority in a lot of the classes we see, but the you know, just to have everybody except for one HK VP9 was pretty impressive. So you know, I thought all the equipment went well, and I didn't know of any stoppages or any issues, even malfunctions that were induced by the vehicles. I didn't see or hear of any issues.
No, it went really well. We had a lot of Safari Land duty gear, which, as you know, just runs fine. And you know, the interesting thing about the course is that people learn some things about their chosen gear that they don't when they're on the square range, or even when they're doing moving or things like that, because you're in these cramped positions, you're bailing out of cars, you're literally pushing yourself across seats, and you learn a lot about that type of where you wear your gear, what type of gear you have, and things like that. And I think people like that because, you know, sometimes what you think is good isn't necessarily.
Well, I encourage everybody to get out and train, whether it's with, you know, us or somebody else, but you need to test your gear. And there's so many times when people have all this whiz-bang gear because they read about it on the internet, or they saw so-and-so uses it, and it may work great for them, but they find that it doesn't work well once they have to use it, especially in some of these adverse conditions, vehicles, you know, whatever it might be.
You're much better off keeping your gear sleek and simple, not a lot of bulky stuff that's hard to manipulate. Keep it simple, you'll be better off, and that certainly proved to be the case here.
Absolutely. Now, as far as the vehicle course, we did some simulated seated position in the chairs, which I thought was great, and those chairs are a pain in the butt, by the way. I may
much more difficult than a real vehicle.
Yeah, I may have modified my chair slightly, you know.
I think when you ripped the arm off, that may have been the clue.
Yeah,
right?
It worked out much better.
Trying to get out of the chair.
Yeah. But I'm a big guy, so that, you know, it was a good learning opportunity for, you know, getting that draw. And then, you know, kind of transitioning to day two. Well, let me back up. We actually did some vehicle tests on day one. We had the vehicle laboratory, which was amazing, you know, and I got to give a shout out to the Federal ATK guys. They brought some ballistic gel for us to use, so we actually could see the performance of the rounds shooting through the barriers.
Normally when I do what I call my vehicle lab, we just basically see what rounds will go through and out the other side and stuff like that. You know, right now within the whole social media, there's a big debate over what is and what is not cover in and around a car, and I don't want to get into that, but I let people see for themselves when we shoot the vehicles up. But what the folks from Federal did is they brought that ballistic gelatin, so now not only could we see rounds go through the vehicle, we could see what type of potential wounding effectiveness they had. And I got to tell you, they brought along that new Gold Dot 2 for the FBI, and on social media you heard a lot of trashing going on about that round, but that's not what I saw here. And of course, you know, the proven 147 grain HST and 9mm, that proved to be a great performer, and I believe it was the 165 HST that they had in 40 caliber that also worked out real well.
Yeah, and we had I think Hornady Defense, somebody brought that, and that, you know, held up pretty good.
Right.
We had a 380 round.
Right.
Didn't obviously do nearly as well as the 9 or the 40. And then we also tested some rifle and shotgun rounds through the vehicle as well. So it was a really good learning opportunity. It was great for me to always see the performance, and I think a lot of the guys, their first time seeing it was really helpful.
Well, you know, if you're going to fight in and around a car, if you're thinking about using that for cover, you need to understand what is and what is not cover, and there's a lot of misconceptions about that. Also, you need to understand how bullets can skip underneath the vehicle or across the hood or even long ways across the windshield. So the students got to see that on a real car before they actually started training around the cars, and that has a big impact when you're trying to get low or where you're trying to take cover at, because now you know, hey, if I'm here, there's a real good chance that bullet's going to come zipping through. I don't want to be here.
Exactly. And it was a you know, very realistic eye-opener to see, oh, rounds went right through this and that or the other thing for a lot of the guys. So that kind of goes into some of the debussing drills. You know, we're addressing a threat through the windshield, and then you're quick debussing, moving to the rear, and maybe moving to a position of cover. I really enjoyed those drills, and we did those solo and in tandem in a variety of situations. We had some vehicles, we had it, you know, set up mock first to have the guys go through it to kind of get the motions down, but then with the vehicles, you know, they got to go through a few different vehicles in tandem, working together, simulating those two-man cars for some of the law enforcement guys that were here. And I think the guys learned so much about getting in and out, especially when they had to crawl.
Well, one of the things I do want to tell your viewers, what my vehicle combatives class is, it's not a Baghdad convoy class, you know, where you guys are bailing out and there's a large volume of fire with AR-15s. I'm not trashing those classes. If that's your real world of work, that's certainly good. My class is intended for the individual with a handgun, the individual patrol officer or the armed citizen. In this case, we had a large contingent from Winnipeg, Canada that were here working in partners, so we did that. But for the most part, this vehicle class is about the lone individual and what they can do in and around a car. But easily modified, so and it worked out well. No,
and I think it was a great experience because we even had several of the other students were saying, hey, I'd like to try that. Maybe I'm with my wife, or maybe I'm with a friend or something like that. Of a like-minded personality where they're both, you know, permit to carry holders or whatever. And I think it was just an experience that, even though we all learned it's kind of a hassle to crawl over some of this stuff, and like you said, it's not going to be pretty. It's
but it's not going to be Hollywood, man, but you got to get yourself out of that car.
You know, and I just really enjoyed it, especially the shooting station at our other bay where we had those vehicles lined up and where we're shooting underneath the cars, where we're shooting through and around. I really enjoyed it. Now, I know you did your homework. Those are based on real scenarios that you've seen.
Absolutely they are, Everything that I do at all of my classes has history behind it, and I know that there's people out there that say, I don't want to know about the history of gunfighting, I want to know about the science. Well, you know, I don't know about the science behind it. That's mostly sports physiology. But when it comes to deciding what we are going to do in a class, if I see it time and time again over the years, that's something we're going to incorporate, because that's the kind of thing that really happens. We keep it simple, we keep it straightforward, we don't do any fantasy stuff in this class. We do the type of stuff in this class that you can use to save your own life in and around your car.
And I thought the valuable lessons that were taught throughout the class were so relevant. And I'm a big person when I evaluate training. Is it relevant? Is it realistic? You know, is it applicable? Does it work? And I thought all of the lessons are, you know, meet those things. Check, 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 check. So it was a great course.
Good.
So Dave, I just want to thank you again. I really enjoyed the experience.
No problem.
We always enjoy having you. You're one of our favorite instructors.
Okay.
Again, guys, if you want to learn more about Dave's courses, handguncombatives.com, you can get a hold of them. Facebook, YouTube, you have some great YouTube videos that address some of the ongoing trends and kind of new things that you hear about, and you demonstrate stuff. And what I like about your videos is that you just demonstrate it, you put it out there, real world for everybody to see, and even if you get some criticism.
You know, I do get some criticism, but let's face it, if you have an instructor that doesn't show you it can be done, you're not going to have confidence in it. And that reminds me, we're going to do a class together next year.
We are. And you know what? Let's do, let's just give a little teaser, but and then we'll do a separate video maybe kind of talking about that class. You guys can check that out, but that's going to be a pistol carbine continuity class. June of 2017.
Continuity is always a good thing. If we can keep the motions, the manipulations similar from pistol to carbine, it's, you know, short circuits, it streamlines the training process. And let's face it, when you're talking about going high ready with a pistol or high ready with a carbine, low, or whatever the case may be, those manipulations are very similar. So what we're going to be basically doing is we're going to be taking the semi-automatic pistol, the AR-15, and we're going to marry those in one training program. And I think it's going to work out really good.
I think it's going to be awesome. And I think particularly it's going to have a strong appeal to law enforcement who have their handgun as their primary firearm. And we're seeing more and more patrol rifles and squad cars available to guys, and those skills immediately carry over. So I'm looking forward to the course.
Good deal.
Again, handguncombatives.com for more information about Dave. Please check out our webpage if you're interested in training that we're doing, hosting other stuff coming up. That is learningfirearms.com. And make sure you check us all out on Facebook, and we'll put links to all this stuff in the description below. Thank you guys very much for watching. Whenever you shoot, make sure you shoot safe. Always wear your eye and ear pro. Have a great day.